You ready, Liz?
Yeah.
All right, so the Amphora project is, if we look at what the word is, it says Amphora. That's how you spell it, by the way. It says a tall, ancient Greek or Roman jar with two handles and a narrow neck. There's lots of different images online on Google, but typically these are the old classic forms. There's really three components to an amphora pot. You have a foot, you have a body, you have a neck, actually four sections, and a rim. What's typical of all classic amphora forms is that you have a foot, a body section, which is where you're going to do your decoration, your neck section, which is typically where the handles go, and then a rim. We are going to use slip to decorate our pot only, and then we'll clear coat it. So if you're working with a brown colored clay body, we will have a white slip available, a porcelain slip, so you have a contrast. Amphora pots were used many, many years ago when people made things that were important, such as like when they were growing their own stuff, it opened up exportation. They did a lot of trading, bartering and trading. So you'll see some of these forms, like these over here, look like they've probably been rescued from someplace. The ones that are really narrow and to a point, does anybody have an idea why they would make those?
For arrows?
No. So what people did is they put things of value in there, such as wine, oils, spices, herbs, food, grains. But the ones that have a real sharp point, why do you think they might have those? What kind of ground? What kind of ground do we have?
Soil.
What kind?
Grass.
Sandy. Very sandy. So climates that had sandy soils, like desert regions, they would wiggle those into the ground. Now what was cool about clay back in the time is if you had something, you grew something, that was what you did. You know what I mean? That you provided for yourself. If you made something, rats, snakes, insects could not get into a clay jar. They can chew and find their way into a wicker basket, right? So it's a very important thing. So what they would do, the reasons there was two handles on here, is because they could pick it up and transport it, or they could pass it to somebody, right? So there's a lot of function in these pots. You guys are really going to pick and choose which form you want to have, how you want to make it. These are very involved, a lot of detail, slip trailing that was done onto here. How you guys are going to make this personal to you is you're going to tell your story of who you are. This moment in time, we're going to take a little snapshot of who you are, what your dreams and goals are going forward. All right? And you're going to tell that story in your native heritage, like your background. Like I'm German, I'm Jewish, and I'm Polish. You can tell, right? Right. So my story would have been in high school when I was 18, getting ready to graduate, would have said something like, I'm moving to Florida, I'm going to go to college in Florida and try to be a professional golfer. That was my story. That was what I was all about, right? And, I moved to Florida and I played golf and I became a teacher. So things change, which is okay, but put down what your dreams and goals are. It should be like 2 to 3 sentences. And I would write that story around the body of my pot, right in through here, all the way around or just on one side, okay? And I would tell it either in Hebrew, German, or Polish. So you guys go to Google Translator, figure out what your story's going to be, what your heritage is. I don't want it in English. I want it in something else. Okay? So you got to figure out where you came from if you don't already know. Questions so far?
So this project, probably going to have to use, is there a way to use handle or you have to use the wheel problem?
Excellent question. What do y'all think?
Wheel.
You want to work on the wheel?
Wheel.
Okay. Tate's going to try to do his on the wheel. What are the other techniques
Hand building.
of hand building? Coil,
Slab.
slab, pinch pots, all good techniques. Or you could work it on the wheel, or you could do a combination. I'll bring in the other pot, the really large one that's in the back corner. That could kind of classify as an amphora. I made that by coils on the wheel. Because it's thrown in sections. I throw a little bit, put a coil around, 2 or 3 coils, pull it up, 2 or 3 coils, pull it up, keep repeating that process. So work with the technique that you want to work with that's also going to allow you to be successful on your project, right? The one that I have at home that I wanted to bring in but forgot is made on the wheel, but it's thrown in sections. All right, so I have a foot section, I have the body section, and then I have the neck section, and then after I put it all together, I put handles on there. So you could, the easiest way really is coiling if your coiling skills are good. Slab is kind of a weird one, you know, to make a round pot. It doesn't have to be round though. It could be alternative shape, you know. Handles, I just went with small little decorative handles on here. When you line your handles up, this is kind of how we want to do it. One's on this side, one's on this side. If you don't put it on the banding wheel and line it up, typically the handles get all crooked. The way that you can make your pot, if you do coil it, or let's say you start out pinching the bottom, and then you dry it a little bit, and then you start coiling up, you put it on a banding wheel, and as it's rotating around, where's the banding wheel? Where's the banding wheel? Right behind you there.
What the hell? Right there.
Yep. So let's say I was going to keep going with this. I wanted to make my neck taller. If it's on here, and as it's rotating around, I can take a metal rib and shape it and form it so that it's proportionate and not all wonky. If your pot gets all wonky when you're making it, we've got techniques where we can cut, make incisions, tuck them back in. If it's still soft. Once it dries out, then we kind of lose your opportunity to work with the clay, right? But if I wanted to make this taller, let's say this is all I could throw on the wheel, and I wanted to make it taller, I could dry this and then add what to grow it up?
Coil.
Could add coils, okay? So most of the pots that you'll see will have a taller neck region, all right? This is more decorative, which is fine. But most of the pots will lend themselves. Here's a key point also, common mistake people do, is the handle should stay confined within the belly of the pot to the rim. Y'all see that? Sometimes I get a lot of this. I get handles, big old Dumbo ears that come way out here. What's wrong with that?
Break.
It's just too much. It's more likely to break. And if this was actually something that let's say you grew wine, made wine, you poured wine in there, you had a top on it, and you had a whole wagon full of these, and you were going to sell them, you're going to trade with my man right here, Cisco, who was growing wheat, and you wanted to make some bread.
I think so.
You're like, hey, Cisco, let's have some wheat. And he's like, my wine man's here. So you take your cart over, you got your handles right here because you don't have just one pot, but probably 20 pots, right? That way they wouldn't break. You could butt them up next to each other. You could transport them easily. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right, so your story again is going to go around this section. You could do it around here if you want. So after you make it, you're going to dry it some. You're going to figure out what slip you're going to use on there. I like to take a pencil once it's centered on the banding wheel, and I'll just take my pencil and I'll mark my lines. So I'll mark it like that. Then I know that my story would go in this section. I could cover that whole section with slip, tape off the top section, the bottom section, so I have crisp lines. Hang on my slip, let my slip dry. And then I could take a pencil and carve through, exposing the clay body underneath. Or, that's a real commitment, because if you make a mistake, you got to backtrack to fix it. Or, you could not cover it in slip, mark your sections, write your story out, carving into the clay body, then dry it some, take your slip, put it in, wipe it off, and then you have the contrast, right? So that's a safer way. Or you could do a combination. Peyton's got a question.
It's something about if you try to use the wheel, you have to make 2 different bowls and flip one over the other.
Yeah, like let's say for example, you know, this is his second bowl. He's actually a 5th grade, so he's doing a bowl set. The smaller one nests inside of here. So he's weighed this out. So let's say you wanted to do that, you could take your calipers, measure, say, it's 6 inches, make another bowl, flip the other one over and score the two together, and then you have a body section that you could work from. That's good. That's really strong visually. That's the whole point of the class, in my view, is to get you guys to think three-dimensionally. Other questions? So what are we going to start with? All right, 3 sketches. And your 3 sketches really should be a different form. You know what I mean? So get on Pinterest, get on Google Images, find some forms, some classic Amphora forms. What about size? How big does it have to be? Yeah, size that you're comfortable with. You really want to challenge yourself? Make one small. Make one tiny and try to get all the details on there. That's not easy to do. I had one kid my first year, he made one that was just big enough to fit into the kiln. So I've had them in between this size and 28 inches. So it's really what you guys want to do, but these are really cool pots. My personal favorite one, because you're going to take this, we're going to fire it. We are going to fire it. Kilns will be in probably the next 2 weeks. We will fire them. You guys will take these home. You'll put them in your house, and they'll be there forever. You know, 10 years from now, you're going to look back and be like, oh yeah, I remember that. You know, my goal is to become a professional baseball player, or to become a chef, or to go to CF, or become a dentist, or a nurse, or whatever your dreams or goals are.
Do we have time to glaze all our other products that we haven't been able to glaze yet, like our face mug and our...
I don't know if you're going to have time, but you're going to have the opportunity to have them fired. Yeah. So yes, even if I have to open up for a Saturday, you guys want to come in and do some stuff, you can do that or stay after. Yeah. Joel's excited about that.
Yeah.
It's not to glaze my face mug, my body part, and my animal.
Your face mug can be glazed in about 5 minutes. I got a technique that's I want to show you for that.
Okay.
Yeah, just right into a bucket of glaze. Good. Other questions? All right, so sketches will come. You guys got the rest of the class period. Let's get crack-a-lacking.
I'm going to try to find out how to cut this off.